Hello book lovers, and welcome back or welcome to Nat Cat's Bookish Cafe. Today I am here to review my second quarter reading. Alright, so June has come to an end, which means that this year is officially halfway over, which is kind of crazy. If you're new to my channel, I set myself some goals every year and I put them into a bingo board, and I check in every quarter to kind of see how I am doing on those goals. So we're going to go ahead and go through those. We're also going to go ahead and maybe talk about some books that I'm hoping to still read by the end of the year to help me complete these goals. And then of course I'm also going to talk about the 3 best books that I read here in the second quarter. All right, so here is our main page. As you can see the bingo board in its entirety with its one single spot marked off. So far we are definitely not doing super great. This bingo board is a combination of individual books as well as goals that I'm hoping to work on throughout the year. So while there are definitely a lot of goals on here that I was not planning on having finished by the halfway point, it would have been nice if I had like a few of the individual books read, more than one at least, but we will go ahead and go through the ones that I have specific trackers for. Some of these I really won't know until the end of the year if I've accomplished it. I then do have a spreadsheet that kind of shows you how I'm doing on my series, because there is a goal associated with series. And then we'll take a look at how I'm doing with the goal of reading 50% of the books that I purchased, which by the way, I'm not doing. I'm not doing it. All right, so up first we have what is now called the not really self-destruct books. Essentially, when I first set this goal, I had a list of 7 books that would self-destruct by the end of the year. And these are the individual books that are on the bingo board. So essentially I can mark off a spot on the bingo board every time I read one of these. And as you can see, Master of One is the only one that I have counted. This one I actually DNF'd, but I read over 100 pages of it. Now, here in the second quarter, I ended up taking off 3 self-destruct books and randomly replacing them with 3 books that I have purchased this year. The reason that I did that is because I did a try a chapter vlog where I read the first chapter of all the books that were on that self-destruct list and then picked a book to read based off of that, which I ended up choosing Master of One and then DNFing that. But on top of that, I decided that 3 of my self-destruct books, I just wasn't interested in them just after that first chapter. And instead of marking off those 3 as being completed, if you hear any tinkering, that's Tofu's bell. I don't know what he's doing out there, but he's doing something. But that being said, instead of just like marking those 3 as being completed, I decided to go ahead and replace them, which, you know, obviously makes things a little bit harder for me, but I'd also kind of felt like cheating to count those books when I had only read a chapter, if not less than a chapter. So the books that I had replaced, I replaced with Red, Mary, and Black Earth Wisdom. These are not self-destruct books, which means that if I do not finish them by the end of the year, I won't have to get rid of them, but I am still trying to prioritize them. I know, prioritize is a strong word considering I haven't read any of them. Babel and Mary are definitely going to be more fall books, and the other 3 I'll just have to try to get to eventually. Up next, we have our rereads, which we are also not doing well with whatsoever. I was hoping to read Captive Prince in the month of June. However, I have been slumping. It really started in the month of May and has been getting progressively worse instead of better. And so I do feel a little bit behind on my goals just because I'm really not reading a lot right now, which is unfortunate. And unfortunately, none of these rereads are 100% calling to me right now, just like no book is really calling to me right now. But that being said, Scythe by Neil Shusterman, I did just here in the month, for the month of August, pull it out of my challenge cup. I will go ahead and link my July and August TBR up there so you can get a little bit more of an idea of what that means. But essentially, hopefully, since now I have it out of the challenge cup and it's officially on a TBR, I will maybe get to it sooner rather than later, but we will see. I will say that I have been a little bit in the mood for N.K. Jemison's book, The Killing Moon, just because I love N.K. Jemison. So hopefully I will bring myself to pick that up soon as well. But I've only read Dark Rise. I did read that here in the second quarter. So, you know, by the end of first quarter, we had nothing. I guess having read one book is better than still being at 0. 500 pages. I had a goal to read 10 books that were over 500 pages. Here in the second quarter, I did end up reading one book that was over 500 pages. I will say that I am currently listening to an audiobook that I really need to finish in the next day or two, or I will lose my hold. That is also over 500 pages. So this will jump up to 2 in the next couple of days, hopefully. I also have a couple books on my priority TBR that are over 500 pages if I just get around to actually picking them up. So we definitely have the potential that here in the third quarter, that number is going to increase. Am I optimistic that I am going to reach 10 by the end of the year? No, I'm honestly not. So I'm not someone who reads a ton of long books. So maybe setting this goal at 10 was a bit too much. I was really trying to push myself to pick up some of those longer fantasy and sci-fi books that I've been avoiding for years. So far, this isn't really helping me do so, but I will say that this year's reading is a little bit more of a struggle than it usually is. I'm usually not as slumpy as I am, and when I do slump, it usually doesn't last as long and it's not quite as intense as this is. So kind of hard to say if this goal is just a flop and not something I will ever be able to achieve, or if it's just the current state of my mind. All right, sorry about that. My phone ran out of storage. So if there was any angle changing or anything, I had to go ahead and mess with that. But let's go ahead and start with this page, Hispanic Latinx authors. I had a goal to read 10 books by Hispanic and Latinx authors. This is one of the diversity groups when it comes to authors that I struggle to pick up a lot of books by, just because I don't have a ton on my TBR. As you can see, I'm not doing that great. I have added one more book since the first quarter, but only reading one book by a Hispanic author per quarter is definitely not the rate that I want to be going at. I did really enjoy the Lesbiana's Guide to Catholic School. Definitely want to go ahead and pick up the companion book, which follows her brother. I also have quite a few books on my TBR that I was hoping to get to in the summer. I had quite a few books that were definitely very summery that were written by Hispanic authors, and thanks to my slump, I just have not been getting to the books that I really want to get to. So I'm hoping that here in the second half of the year, this will definitely increase. Moving on to nonfiction. Technically, we are on track with this since we have read 3 of the 6 nonfictions. I did read only one here in the last quarter, and it was a relatively short one, and that was The Flamboyance, and it was unfortunately one I didn't really enjoy, but it was a nonfiction. I do have a goal to read a nonfiction come July, or I'm sorry, not July, come August, once I get back from my trip, because I will be traveling for the majority of the month of July, and I prefer to read my nonfictions physically and to own them so that I can annotate them, and I'm not planning on bringing any books on my trip. So once I get back, I do have a couple books in mind. If you watched my July and August TBR, you know you guys will be helping me pick what books I will be reading in the month of August. So you guys will get to choose which nonfiction I read next. Moving on to Black authors. As you can see, we are a little behind on this goal as well. I'm trying to think. I'm pretty sure I've added 3 this quarter. I think I read 4 in the first quarter. And then I read Together, Icarus, and then Flamboyance here in the second quarter. quarter. Once again, I am behind on a lot of my reading goals because I am kind of behind on my reading period. So I will definitely be playing catch up in the second half of the year. I'm kind of hoping that filming this video and kind of seeing where I am with my goals will really kind of like pump me up to actually get some reading done. But who knows? It has actually been like a couple days since I've read anything. As someone who usually reads every day, the fact that especially throughout the month of June, there were so many days where I never read a single page, I'm a little bit lost. I'm feeling a little bit lost as a reader, but I'm hoping these goals will give me a little bit of direction and help a girl out because I love reading. My brain is just kind of not letting me do it right now. So I will say the book that I'm currently reading physically is called Under the Udula Tree, and this is written by a Black author. So I will be able to add that to this list as soon as I actually pick the book up again. So fingers crossed that'll be soon. As far as translated work, I think we added 3 more because I think we read the first 4, or did I read Manly Appetites in the first quarter? I can't remember. So I either added 2 more or 3 more. I want to say it was 3 more to the translated list. 2 of them were BL mangas. So far, a lot of my translated books have been BL mangas, and that trend will probably continue because I just bought a few BL mangas to kind of give them a try. On top of that, I read The Night Guest, which is so far one of my lowest rated books of the year. It was a kind of horror novella. Did not have a good time with that, but I do have some plans for other translated books, so we will go ahead and talk about that a little bit later. Kindle books, we are technically on track with this. I had a goal to read 10 Kindle books, and so far I've read 5, which is half of 10. The one thing I will say I'm a little disappointed by is that Masquerade, The Apples of New Eden, and Blood Orange are all books that I bought this year specifically to read. On the bright side, I am buying these books and reading them right away, so you know, they're not sitting on my Kindle forever, but it also means that I'm not really working through my Kindle backlog, which was technically what this goal was for. So, you know, we've read a few Kindle books, but we also aren't really reading the Kindle books that I intended this goal to push me to read. So we'll keep working on that. Indigenous author, I have not read any books by an Indigenous author here in the second quarter. Unfortunately, I wouldn't say I'm 100% behind. It would be great if I was at 3 books at this point. I don't think I have any books by Indigenous authors on my immediate TBR, so I think I'll just have to go ahead and look into that a little bit more. Indigenous authors, similar to Hispanic authors, when it comes to the pool of books that I'm pulling from, is smaller, and therefore I am less frequently picking them up. But I do have quite a few on my TBR. I just actually need to go ahead and prioritize them. Library books, we are doing good on so far. I think that starting with the Tea Dragon Society through Flamboyance, all of those are library books that I picked up from the library, and I'm a little concerned about accomplishing this goal. Like in the first half of the year, obviously it's been going relatively well. However, I have recently hauled a lot of books. My unread shelves are bursting at the seams, and I really want to prioritize them in the second half of the year, which of course means I probably won't be getting books from my library quite as often. So we will see what happens with this. When it comes to library books, I count physical as well as ebooks. I do not count my Libby reads. And the final category on here is going to be disability representation. We are doing well on this, which isn't surprising because I do enjoy reading books with disability representation. I believe Heroes of the Water Monster, was that in the first quarter? It might have been. So I might have only added 4 books, which is the 2 books of the Tea Dragon Society, Icarus, and the Lesbiana's Guide to Catholic School. But I do still have plenty of books on my TBR with disability representation. So I feel like we are going to go ahead and accomplish this goal by the end of the year, which is not something I can say about a lot of the other goals. Alrighty, so we are moving on to how I'm doing on my series. I set a goal to complete 15 series, not catch up on, not make progress in, complete 15 series. And as you can see in this little area right here, I have finished 6. So not quite as many as we would like at this point in the year. I believe I finished 3 here in the second quarter. The first one is The Darkness Outside of Us. I did read the sequel in this duology. I just finished it here in June. If you watched my June TBR, it was the book that I forgot I read, even though I rated it 4.5 stars. So I finished that one. In the first quarter, the Inheritance Trilogy and Healer of the Water Monster were completed. The Extraordinaries by TJ Klune was completed in the first quarter. Withered and Seer, which is also TJ Klune, I want to say that was the second quarter. I'm like, I can't 100% remember, but I'm like pretty sure, but maybe not. I don't know. And then Pretty, I did accomplish that one in the second quarter. So I will say that a couple series that I DNF'd, I think Tokyo Ghoul I DNF'd in the first quarter. I have recently decided to DNF A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. I read the first 2 books because I was taking part in a read-along, and then I just kind of fell off the wagon, and I feel like I just wasn't super excited about the third book, and people were kind of underwhelmed by it. It kind of seemed like people's least favorite of the series, and so I decided that there was no reason for me to continue that. But let's talk a little bit about the series that I should prioritize, you know, like I have a really good chance of completing them this year. The first one is Lord of Eternal Night. This is by Ben Alderson, and I only have 1 book left. All of these books are kind of like retellings, and this one is like a Little Mermaid retelling. Winter's Orbit, I want to reread the first one, if you remember seeing that on my reread list. So if I get around to rereading that one soon and then picking up the second one, I know they're more like not even really companions, they're just set in the same world, but I have decided that I just need to read Winter's Orbit again before I go into that book. So there's that. Then Little Thieves is the book that I'm currently listening to as an audiobook. So I should be able to finish this trilogy here this year. Women of Troy, oops, we went too far. Women of Troy, I know the third book is now out, but it was only as a hardback book. So I will either have to get it from the library or I'll wait until the third book comes out because I have the other 2 in paperback. So I don't want to get the hardback version. Not completing that, not completing that. Well, that was unexpected. I could definitely finish. It's like a YA, and I listened to the first one as an audiobook, so it should be a relatively quick and easy read. Blood Debt is similar to Winter's Orbit, where I want to reread the first one, but in this case, the second one is like a direct sequel, and I just feel like it's been too long since I read the first one, and especially since I listened to it as an audiobook, the details and like the family lore and plot and magic system just hasn't quite stuck with me. I remember really enjoying it. I really need to get around to just rereading it. I am caught up on the Monstrous series at this point, which is exciting, but unfortunately, fortunately, the series is not yet complete. I believe there will be at least another 2 books in the series, so we're just going to hang out there. A Curious Beginning by Diana Raybourn. I have been popping through these books. Like when I was slumping, these were the only ones that I was interested in reading. I'm on hold for book 8 right now, but I'm not sure, is this a completed series or is she still working on them? I'm not 100% sure, but I will continue to make progress on that. If the series is completed, I could definitely finish it this year. If it's not completed, then obviously I will probably just catch up on it. Then we have A Dowry of Blood, which I think, what is the second one called? A Malice in Education of Malice, Education in Malice, something along those lines, which I haven't heard the best things about, but I'm still curious in checking out, and I will probably do that in the fall months, so hopefully that gets finished out. A couple Christmas series. We'll see how I'm feeling. Sometimes I'm in the mood for holiday romances, other times not so much. The War of Lost Hearts. This is a very weird situation for me because this is a fantasy romance series and I had a really good time with the first two. In fact, I gave the second book 5 stars, and then I actually started reading book 3 at the beginning of this year and just couldn't get into it. I know I keep saying that I started a slump in May, but I really have been like on the verge of a slump for the majority of this year. And this book, I put it down and I just have had no desire to pick it up again. I never think about the series. I never think about the characters. I feel very strongly that the fact that the story was leaning more towards fae and elf elements, or I think they might just be fae. I don't remember if they were elves or what they were. And that's not something I really like in my stories very often. So there's a part of me, surprisingly, that is wondering if I just want to DNF. Especially because I think the last book is like well over 700 pages. I think it might be like 720 pages. It's weird to want to DNF a series where I just gave book 2 5 stars and was actually one of my top books of last year, and now I'm like, I just don't care anymore. And so I don't really want to DNF it yet because there's a part of me that's like, well, maybe it's just the slump talking, but we'll see how I'm feeling by the end of the year, if I'm gonna go ahead and DNF it, or at this point I'm just getting worried that I'm gonna forget so much about the story that I would have to like reread the first 2 books to read the third one. So either that, or I can just like read a very detailed summary of them. But yeah, that's a weird one where I'm not really sure if I'm going to finish it just because I just haven't been feeling it. Then we have All for the Game, which the 5th and final book is out. I do have it on my shelves. I just haven't read it. I think it was called The Golden Raven or something like that. So I just need to go ahead and pick that up and then I should be finished. Not sure about this one. Probably not that one. Definitely not that one. Strange the Dreamer, Muse of Nightmares. I just need to pick that up. In fact, I did a spoiler-filled video for Strange the Dreamer, and I'm gonna have to rewatch that before I go into Muse of Nightmares, because at this point, I've gone and forgotten quite a bit because I just keep putting it off. This one, I'm not sure if it's just a duology. I think right now there's only 2 out, but it's like one of those series where you never know. They can, like, with romance novels, they just like keep adding on stuff. So we'll see about that one. This is the Grace Draven series, where the first one was Phoenix Unbound. It's like right here. I'm pointing at it. You can't tell that I'm pointing at it because my hand is like covering my finger. It's this book right here. So I do have the second book. It is possible for me to finish it because there's just 3 books. Definitely not finishing that. The Alchemist, I would like to finish because I actually reread The Alchemist last year with the intention of reading its companion novel, which I own, and I just haven't done that. Probably not. God Killer, it would be great if I finished this series. I picked up book 2 and read like 13 pages, and then my slump was like, not today. So Obsidian Feather, there's nothing else out in that. I know I'm reading the second book of this, hopefully, here in the month of July. Spellbound, I would like to make progress in and maybe even finish because I had a fun time with the series. It is also a series that I'm working on, which is written by a Hispanic author. And as you know, I'm trying to read more books by Hispanic authors. What Moves the Dead, I don't think this series is going to be complete. I have the second book and I pre-ordered the third book, but I thought I heard somewhere that this was going to be like a 5-book series or something. So I don't even know. I'm just listening to rumors at this point. Trail of Lightning. Oh, I actually wanted to go ahead and DNF this because this is a series that kind of seems like it's been abandoned by the author, and I was left a little bit disappointed by the first book, which is unfortunate because it is written by an Indigenous author. But this is by Rebecca Roanhorse, who also wrote, I just went into that sentence as if I knew the title of this book, but I don't. But you know, I'm sure you know, but that is a book that I'm interested in. So I am looking to return to this author eventually. Tea Dragon, I could definitely finish. I just need to read the third book, and these are picture books, so it takes me like less than 30 minutes to read them. And then Lesbiana's Guide to Catholic School, I could definitely finish that. I'm trying to remember if the next book is out yet or if it's coming out. I think if it came out, it's a newer release, and if it hasn't come out, it's coming out soon. But yes, so we still have some work to do, but I have options. We definitely have enough options where I should be able to accomplish my goal of finishing a 15 series. All right, so let's go to my purchased books. So I made a goal, because I was inspired by some other people, of reading 50% of the books that I buy in 2025. No. So essentially you can see here that this says bought in 2025, and everything that is highlighted in blue is a book that I have read, essentially. And you will see, whoops, that's not what we wanted. We jumped very much to the end there. There we go. You will see that there is a lot of white, meaning a lot of books that I have, in fact, not read. Yep. And in fact, a lot of the books that I have already read that are in blue are books that I read like in another format, like an audiobook, or I've read them in the past, or I got them from the library and then I purchased the book. So they weren't even books that I really read this year. So yeah, like Icarus I read and then I bought it. Blood Orange I did buy right away and then read it on my Kindle. That along with the Apples of New Eden, The Honeys, Island of the Blue Dolphins, Animal Farm, all books that I read before this year. Icebreaker is a book that I bought this year and then read this year. Apples of New Eden I already mentioned. Together I did buy this year and then read. The Night Swim is actually a book that I got originally for Christmas, but my mom had bought a copy that said good as new, you know, like practically new, and it came really water damaged, and so it took her a while to like return it and then get around to buying me a new copy of it. But that is a book that I've read. It's Witchcraft is also a book that I have already read. Sunrise on the Reaping was a pre-order, I believe, and I did read it this year. Heat Wave I bought this year and read. If Cats Disappeared from the World is when I bought and DNF'd this year. And then the Green Creek special editions, you can kind of like see them. You'll get a closer look of them in my haul video. But yeah, we have a lot of books. So if we scroll back down here, if I did my math correctly, oh my God, there's so many books. We're still going. Okay, so I have bought 85 books so far this year. I put a little note here that says not counting Stuff Your Kindle Day. Essentially, there was a Stuff Your Kindle Day last month, and I don't know how many books I got. I would say maybe like between 15 or 20 of them. But because I didn't pay for them and they're not on my physical shelf, I'm not counting them towards this. But just know there are other books that I have got and have not read. And so far, out of the ones that I have purchased, I have read 14 of them, meaning a whopping 16%, which my goal is 50. 16 is less than 50. For any of you that are not good at math, there's a big gap between 50 and 16. So a little bit concerning. We definitely are gonna lock in and focus in the second half of the year, but those are some of my like general stats and how I'm doing on my goals right now. A lot of my other goals are like read 50% queer books. That one I know I'm doing a good job on. I will also say that this year I set my goal to read 100 books, and currently I have read 47 books, so I am technically 3 books behind, but you know, we are still kind of on track to accomplish this goal. If I read only 100 books, it'll definitely be less than I've read in previous years, but in a way I am fine with reading less books. I just don't want to be reading less books because I'm slumping. I want to be reading less books because I'm taking more time with the books that I'm reading, and because I'm reading longer books, or because I'm reading more nonfiction and things like that. Right now, I am on track to read less books because I'm just not reading, which is not what I want. But that being said, let's talk about some books that I would really like to prioritize here in the second half. This is kind of an end of year TBR, but because I'm slumping, it is really subject to change. I'm gonna choose a couple of books that I would like to prioritize that specifically help me with some of the goals I have set for myself. All right, we are standing up now because I need to get up and grab books and stuff. I'm gonna move a little bit backwards because I ended with disability books, and this one we're gonna go ahead and start. 2 books that I would really love to get to this year that have disability representation. The first one is gonna be Heavenly Tyrant by Sharon J. Shao. This is a book that I have been putting off again and again and then again. This is the sequel to Iron Widow, which I gave 5 stars, so this is a 5-star prediction. And in this book, our character is someone who had to experience their feet being bound, essentially, which has, in a way, crippled her due to her bones being permanently broken. It's a very disturbing practice that happened in China to women so that they would have those small lotus-like feet, they were called. So she is a victim of that. The next book is actually a BL manga, and that is going to be Touch Within the Abyss by Mayuri Mori, and one of the characters in this is blind, and it is a male-male romance between this blind man as well as an assassin who just can't really bring himself to kill. The next goal would be Indigenous authors. One is a library book that I happen to have now, but will have to return without reading, but hopefully we'll be able to check out again, and that is Godly Heathens by H.E. Edgman. This is an author I have read before. I read their The Witch series. Girl, where are you? The Witch King was the first book, and I feel like I saw a lot of improvement between the first book and the second book in that series. So, oh, squirrel. I saw a lot of improvement between those 2 books, so I'm looking forward to reading their newer work, and this one is a YA kind of fantasy with reincarnated gods vibes, so that really intrigues me. The other one is a recent purchase, and that is going to be Sisters of the Lost Nation by Nick Medina. This is a book that I've heard really good things about. I think it's more of a mystery thriller kind of situation that deals a lot with missing Indigenous women, which is a very real problem. It'll help me with my goal of reading books I've recently purchased, as well as reading more Indigenous authors. All right, when it comes to translated work, all of these BL mangas that I recently purchased, I believe, because I don't think these were originally written in English, but I will of course double check before I count it. I also recently purchased Jawbone by Monica Ojeda, which is translated by Sarah Booker, and this is kind of a horror about 2 girls that were very close, yet at the beginning of this book we realize that they are estranged and that one of them has found herself in a very dangerous situation. So I just recently bought this one here in June on my visit visit to Portland, so I would love to get to it soon. 2 books by Black authors I would love to get to. We up first have The Reformatory by Tananarive Due. Now let me double check this real quick. This one's actually over 500 pages, so if I read this one, it would add to my 500 page plus goal. So you can count that for that goal as well. Up next we have, oh, I hate these like shiny covers. It's terrible with the ring light. Immortal Dark by Tigist Grima. I hope I'm pronouncing their name right. I believe this is a older YA, like maybe approaching more new adult. I think I heard a lot of people say it was kind of on the mature side for YA, but it is sapphic vampires, and those who weren't put off by maybe the bad marketing of the age group really enjoyed this book, so I am excited to read it. All right, 2 nonfictions I would love to read. The first one is going to be Black Earth Wisdom by Leah Penniman. This is the book that was one of the replacements for my self-destruct, so this would be killing 2 birds with 1 stone as well. On the other hand, we have Prey, Immigration, Islam, and the Erosion of Women's Rights by Ayan Hizri Ali. This is a book that I did not get this year. I got it last year, and I have been really excited to read it, but I just haven't really been picking up nonfiction, and so this one really intrigues me just because it is a very difficult and delicate topic, and it sounds, based off of what I've heard about the author, that she's really going to be someone who can handle it well. So these are 2 nonfictions I'm still hoping to get to. This one is more environmental based, like being an environmentalist in a more spiritual way. So very excited about both of these. All right, looking at books that are over 500 pages, I already, please don't chew on my wire. That's not a toy. No, it's not a toy. I'm going to take that away. Loki has mistaken this for a toy. Anyway, I already mentioned The Reformatory as an option for 500 plus pages. Another option would be A Taste of Gold and Iron by Alexandra Woland. This is exactly 500 pages, like 500. This is the bare minimum that I can do to accomplish this goal, and I will take advantage of that. Another book that'll give me 2 birds with 1 stone, we have Babel. This is over 500 pages. This one is one of my self-destruct books, so I really do want to prioritize it, because I kind of said if I don't read it this year, she's gotta go, because she's been here for quite a while. But I did really enjoy the first chapter that I read, so I'm hoping to do kind of like a spoiler filled vlog where I just really go in depth in this book, probably in the fall. And finally, 2 books by Hispanic authors that I want to prioritize. This was pretty easy to choose because I had 2 books on my summer TBR by Hispanic authors that I was hoping to get to. And that is going to be Canto Contigo by Johnny Garza Villa. This is an author that I have read and really enjoyed. This is a YA contemporary queer romance. And then on the other hand, we have The Sunbearer Trials by Aiden Thomas, another author that I have read and enjoyed. And this one also includes queer characters, but it is more fantasy based. So 2 books I'm excited for by authors that I know will work for me, and I just haven't picked them up, so hopefully I will get to them in August, because that's kind of the last month of summer, so it'd be great if I could get my summer TBR completed. All right, guys, moving on to the final portion of this video. We're going to talk about the top 3 books that I have read in the second quarter. I had a pretty easy time choosing my top 3. There really was only 3 books that really stood out to me. So let's go ahead and get into those. The first one is actually the sequel to another book that made it into my first quarter top books, and that is going to be Together by Keith F. Miller Jr. This is a duology. It is a contemporary YA romance. I adore this series. I talk about it all the time on my channel because I'm constantly trying to get people to pick it up and read it and fall in love with it the way that I have. In this book, the main characters are Jay and Leroy. In the second book here, we also get the point of view of Will, who is a longtime friend of Jay's. In the beginning of the series, Jay and Leroy tried to experience young love and start a relationship. However, things are are complicated because their family and their community is facing an outside threat. And they have to juggle and experience and handle a lot of things that people their age shouldn't have to go through. But I think that the author does such a wonderful job creating these characters, creating all of these different types of relationships, creating a lot of drama, but it's very meaningful drama. It's not like shallow or anything like that. There are a lot of important themes of forgiveness, acknowledging your mistakes and making up for them. We see a lot of healthy relationships between men. We also see a character who is overcoming the insecurities they feel about themselves due to the colorism that is within the community. We also see homophobia being addressed. Lots of things are handled so well in the story, and I love every moment of it, and I love the characters, and it just brought me a lot of joy to read this, so it's no surprise that it was an easy 5-star. The next 5-star is gonna be Sunrise on the Reaping by Suzanne Collins. I do own this book, but it is up in Seattle with my sister because, of course, she was also very eager to read this book, and this is the 5th book in the Hunger Games series. It is another prequel where we are following Haymitch, who was Katniss and Peeta's mentor during the Hunger Games series. Now, I went into this potentially knowing a little less what to expect than other people because I have not read the books for years. Like, I think I read them once when they originally came out and I just never read them again. And I don't think the movies focus as much on Haymitch and his story because there seemed to be people that kind of knew what to expect based on discussions that he had with Katniss and Peeta throughout the series, which I obviously did not remember. However, this book was as powerful as I expected. I mean, I went into this book with high expectations and they were met and exceeded. You know, Suzanne Collins, as far as I'm concerned, can do no wrong, but I also didn't read Ballad of the Songbird and that had a lot of mixed reviews in it, but I really enjoyed the story, really enjoyed watching Haymitch be built into the character that we see in the Hunger Games. And when I say built into the character, I should maybe say be torn down into the character that he became, and it was very heartbreaking. It was very difficult to read. I know that after finishing that book, I had a lot of trouble picking up other books for a while. It definitely put me into a bit of a slump because it was just so impactful. So this is definitely a book that I can see being one of my top books of the year. Suzanne Collins really does not hold back with the brutality that these children face in the Hunger Games. So shout out to her. She had something to say and she said it loud and clear, and we're listening. All right, and the final book that I'm gonna put as my top book of the second quarter, I literally just ran to my mailbox because I saw that this book was delivered and I was like, oh yeah, I can hold it up for this video. And that is gonna be Icarus by K. Crum. This is a book that I just read here in June, and oh my gosh, I instantly fell in love with this author's writing. There are just certain writing styles out there that your brain instantly connects with and is like, more, I want more. Everything you say it so right. And that was K. Crum's writing for me. I absolutely adored the story, the characters. Icarus is a young man because he is 17 going on 18 soon, and he steals priceless paintings from one specific man on behalf of his father. And one day when he is in that man's home trying to steal another painting, or actually he might just be photographing the painting so that his father can replicate it, and then he would replace the original with the replica, he stumbles across Helios, who he was not expecting to be in that home. And Helios is under house arrest, and he's like, hey, I won't tell my dad, but I want you to come back and see me. I'm very lonely. And the connection between these boys is so instant and so strong and so addictive. And I just adored every moment of the story. I thought Icarus's relationship with everyone was so interesting, whether it was with his father, whether it was with Helios, whether it was with the friends that he had at school that he clearly cared about, but because of the lifestyle he lived, he kept trying to like push them away a little bit, but they kept trying to like pull him closer because he was just such an enticing guy. Like, I couldn't blame them. Like, I wanted more of Icarus as well. And so it was just such an intriguing, beautifully told story, and I am definitely looking forward to reading more by this author. All right, guys, I know this video covered quite a few topics. You know, I just wanted to give a little bit of an overarching view of how the first half of the year went and kind of how I'm hoping the second half of the year will go. I am just mostly hoping that I read lots and lots of books that I adore, because I feel like when you're in a slump, not only do you struggle to pick up books, but you struggle to really sink into them as much as you usually would. And as a reader, as an avid reader, as a girl whose primary hobby is reading, I am not having a great time with this slump. But I still have had a relatively good reading year so far. Like you see, I have read quite a few good books. So not all hope is lost. But that being said, guys, I would love to know how your second quarter went, or even the first half of your year. What are some of the top books that you have read, and what are some books that are at the top of your TBR for the second half of the year? Let me know how your guys' goals are going. And as always, thank you so much for supporting my channel by watching my videos, and I hope to see you next time. Bye!